A little girl, shivering in the cold streets of New York, asked a billionaire if she could sleep in his doghouse. What happened next shocked everyone. Would you have done the same in his place? The rain poured heavily across New York City, washing neon lights into blurry rivers along the sidewalks. Cars honked, people rushed for shelter, but in the middle of it all, one small figure stumbled barefoot through the flooded streets. Her name was Emily, a 7-year-old girl with tangled hair, a torn dress, and a small stuffed rabbit clutched tightly to her chest. To her, this toy wasn't just a toy, it was her last memory of a life she once had. Every step she took splashed mud on her legs. She had been chased earlier by men who wanted to drag her back to the alleys she had escaped from. Somehow, she had slipped away. But she wasn't running toward anything. She was just running away from fear, hunger, and loneliness. Lightning cracked across the sky, and for a second, her tiny face lit up, eyes wide, lips trembling. High above the city stood a mansion of glass and stone, modern, cold, and untouchable. It belonged to Jonathan Miller, a billionaire real estate tycoon known across Wall Street as a man without weakness. Jonathan had everything: power, cars, a reputation carved in steel, but not a single soul to share it with. His life was built on control, contracts, and discipline. Love, connection, or family, those words felt like strangers to him. That night, his sleek black car rolled up the driveway, headlights slicing through the storm. He stepped out, adjusting his coat, already calculating tomorrow's billion-dollar meetings. But just as he reached for his keys, a small, broken voice stopped him. "Sir, may I sleep in your dog's house tonight?" Jonathan froze. He turned slowly, and there she was, Emily, drenched from head to toe, lips trembling, eyes pleading. He blinked. A child was asking him of all people, for permission to sleep in a doghouse. But Jonathan didn't even own a dog. For a moment, his brain, the same brain that had negotiated billion-dollar deals, went completely blank. He didn't know what to say. He only saw a fragile child who had chosen a stranger's yard over the dangers of the streets. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Emily," she whispered, hugging her rabbit tighter. Her voice cracked as she added, "I'll be quiet. I won't cause trouble. I don't want to be outside anymore." And in that instant, something inside Jonathan broke. For years, Jonathan's massive oak doors had opened only for wealthy investors, politicians, and celebrities. But that night, for the first time, they opened for a child. "Come inside," he said firmly. Emily's eyes widened. "Inside? You mean in your house?" "Yes, inside," Jonathan repeated. She hesitated, staring at her dripping clothes. "I'll ruin your floor." "Floors can be cleaned," he replied, his voice softer than he had ever heard it. Step by step, Emily entered. Her wet footprints trailed across the polished marble, but Jonathan didn't care. For the first time, the house didn't feel like a museum. It felt alive. Jonathan guided her to a guest bathroom. The moment Emily saw the warm bath filling with steam, she gasped. "For me?" she asked, as if it were impossible. "Yes, Emily, for you," Jonathan said, placing soft towels by the tub. Her little hands touched the steam, and for the first time in months, she smiled. Later, she emerged wrapped in a giant towel, wearing one of Jonathan's oversized shirts. Her hair clung to her cheeks, but her face glowed from the warmth. "You must be hungry," Jonathan said. He searched his luxurious kitchen filled with imported wines and caviar, but none of it seemed right. Instead, he made her something simple: hot chocolate with cookies. Emily sipped slowly, eyes closing in bliss, tears slipping down her cheeks. "It's too good," she whispered, and when she thought Jonathan wasn't looking, she slipped one cookie into her pocket. For tomorrow. When her eyes grew heavy, Emily asked timidly, "Can I Can I sleep on the couch? I promise I won't make a mess. Jonathan's chest tightened. She wasn't asking for comfort. She was asking for permission to exist. You'll sleep in the guest room, he said firmly. Her eyes widened as he showed her the massive bed. It's too big, she whispered. It's yours tonight, Jonathan replied. She climbed onto the bed, her tiny figure swallowed by blankets, Rabbit tucked under her arm. Thank you, Mr. Jonathan, she said softly, before drifting into sleep. That night, Jonathan sat in his study, staring at his untouched reports. His mind kept circling back to the child asleep down the hall. For the first time in years, he felt human. The next day, Jonathan took Emily shopping for clothes in downtown Manhattan. For the first time, she saw colors, textures, and dresses she never imagined. But just as her laughter began to bloom, her face froze. She clutched Jonathan's arm. Across the street, 3 dangerous-looking men were watching her. One of them smirked. It's them, Emily whispered in terror. Jonathan stepped protectively in front of her. The men crossed the street. One sneered. She belongs to us. Street rats don't get to run away. Jonathan's voice cut through the air like steel. She's a child. You will not come near her again. The men laughed. You think your money scares us? One growled. We can make her disappear. Jonathan's fists clenched. For the first time in his life, he realized his wealth meant nothing here. This was not a boardroom battle. It was a fight for Emily's life. That night, Emily cried herself to sleep. They won't stop, she whispered. Jonathan sat beside her bed, his resolve hardening. He could return to his old life untouched, pretending she was never there. Or he could fight for her. The next morning, Jonathan contacted lawyers, social workers, and the police. The process would be long, full of red tape and opposition, even from his own sister Evelyn, who warned him, Jonathan, taking in a child from the streets will destroy your reputation. Think of the scandal. But Jonathan didn't care about scandal anymore. For once, he cared about something real. He looked at Emily, the girl who had asked for nothing but a doghouse, and knew he had already made his choice. Days later, the same men tried to corner them again. But this time, Jonathan was ready. Security, police, and his own unshakable presence stood like a wall. The men were arrested, dragged into police cars, their shouts fading into the storm. Emily clung to Jonathan's hand, her small fingers trembling. Are they gone? She whispered. Yes, Emily, he said, his voice steady. They'll never hurt you again. That night, as Emily slept peacefully in her new room, her room, not just a guest room, Jonathan stood at the doorway, watching her breathe softly. For decades, he had built skyscrapers, signed contracts, and collected billions. But none of it compared to the simple weight of knowing he had saved one child. Sometimes the richest thing a man can do, Jonathan whispered, is to give someone else a chance to live. The storm had ended, but inside Jonathan's mansion, a new life had just begun. Never underestimate the power of kindness. One act of compassion can change a life, and sometimes it can change yours too. Tell me, what would you have done if a child asked you to sleep in your dog's house?